Welcome to Reframe and Reclaim. We are Courtney Huckabee, a psychotherapist,
and Jen Harris, an interior designer
who have teamed up to reflect,
challenge,
and reframe your mindset in relationship with your personal belongings. Find the reframe.
Start your reclaim.
Welcome back to another episode of Reframe and Reclaim. I'm Jen Harris.
And I am Courtney Huckabee.
And with school just around the corner, everybody's busy. They're in that chaotic end of summer, get in the last vacations, get ready for a new school year. August 15th is actually National Back to School Prep Day.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even know that existed, but apparently it does.
It's a real thing.
I mean, I feel like I'm prepping all of August, but there's an official day for it. But this time of year, everybody's getting ready. They're setting new goals. It's the excitement of the new school year.
Yeah.
Getting new clothes, the new backpacks, and
meet
the teacher, all the
new
things
lockers.
you need for school. But there's something that a lot of people overlook this time of year, and that is clutter. So we're in the process of bringing all these things into our home, right? All these new things, new school supplies, new clothes. And clutter can actually have a really strong effect on kids and parents too. But today we're going to focus on kids in today's episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to learn how this can affect their mental health, how the clutter does actually affect their mental health, as well as tips that you can do to help, curb some of that anxiety and stress, and how to have a successful school year. So
let's start off the school year on a good foot. Good note.
So Courtney, I know you've seen some research on this. I'm sure you deal with this with your clients, every year about this time of year.
Back to school routine,
yes.
The back to school shuffle, the anxiety, the worry, the excitement. And yes, one thing that we don't always realize is that our home environments have a huge impact on the success of our children, how well they sleep, how much they can pay attention and focus, learning some self-regulation skills. And there actually is some research from the National Institute of Health of Child Development, and they have said that highly cluttered homes, children who grow up in highly cluttered homes, are impacted not just emotionally, but actually have lower test scores on academic scoring, and they have lower self-regulatory skills, which means they get highly dysregulated more easily, or they have a difficult time self-regulating in those environments.
So is that just the visual noise that's making it difficult for them to process, or what is it specifically about clutter?
So I think it is the visual overstimulation that's happening there. When there's a lot of chaos in our areas, in our spaces, our minds can feel a little chaotic. And children are really good observers. They're really paying attention to things. They're noticing things. And that can be overwhelming for their brains. And so we know as women, women are more susceptible to feeling stress and overwhelm and visually cluttered spaces, children as well. And so even though they may not be saying, I'm feeling stressed or I'm feeling overwhelmed, they may be having a situation where maybe something doesn't go their way, or they're trying to find something, or they can't quite have an organization of their toys or their bedroom space. And that creates a little bit more overwhelmed, stress, and emotional dysregulation.
Well, and plus you're thinking, coming off of summertime, usually things are a little more relaxed. They haven't had to sit and pay attention, for long periods of time. So how does this affect the attention span of kids?
So children, whenever there's a lot in their visual field, it's like trying to figure out what to pay attention to. When there's less to focus on outwardly, we can keep a longer attention span on one thing. And so it's really great to make sure that we allow our children to have their bedrooms organized and decorated how they like, but the classroom as well is really important. So teachers, educators, those who are doing homeschool, like Jen and I have done before, we really need to be very mindful of the actual education setting as well. So what is the room that they are actually learning in, whether it's the classroom or the homeschool room or the dining room table? Wherever we're at, we need to make sure that there is a lot less clutter so that they can pay attention and have more focus.
I know there was also a 2025 study by Bright Minds Learning Center that said The clutter-free workspace helps students sustain attention on complex tasks up to 23% longer. Man, if I could get my kids to, pay attention 23% longer, that would be amazing. If I could at times, right?
I mean, kids' attention span already naturally is very short. And so
Right.
23% longer may not seem like a whole lot, but really it can be really, really helpful for their learning and for your sanity.
For everyone's
Everyone's
sanity,
sanity. Yeah.
right? So, what advice do you give to your clients that are coming in that just have a really hard time transitioning to back to school and can't focus and just struggle?
I say try to start your routine before school starts.
Hmm.
So we're going to kind of ease into that, whether it's, we have the new school clothes, let's take out the clothes we're not going to be able to wear this next school year. So we have less clothes to look through in the morning in the closet or the drawers. If you're, getting new school supplies, make sure all the other school supplies that have been used and, ready to be discarded are actually discarded. We're not, having extra random markers or pencil top erasers everywhere.
That one half pencil that's always at the bottom of the backpack,
Right, right.
it's broken.
And really talking about the expectations of the routine of bedtime routine. Are we packing our lunch? Are we buying lunch at school? What time are we expected to wake up? What's the routine after school, whether it's homework or extracurricular activities or bedtime or chores? So really communicating those expectations, but I think, it's really great for the whole family to kind of have a fresh start. And that might be, we're creating menu for dinner. Or we're creating a family time to talk about things once a week, like a family meeting. But
Hmm.
I think communication and role modeling too with our children is really important.
So, how can a parent role model for their kid if they're, especially when it comes to clutter in the space, they're not in the kids' workspace at school. So, how can they help role model at home?
So if they're doing schoolwork at home, maybe there's the homework that comes home, then I would say like finding a quiet space. You're not going to be watching TV while we're doing homework. Making sure there's a certain time where maybe I've had a snack when I come home, and then I, have a little brain break, come home, have a snack, do my work, and then have dinner, and we're kind of done. But I think that every family has to decide what schedule works for them, but
Hmm.
making sure you actually have space for your child to be successful, being able to focus, having a quiet space and a clear space for them to do their academic work.
Yeah, that's the thing I found too in research and just life is, definitely having where they are doing their homework at home, like you said, have a
Hmm.
designated space, have good lighting,
Hmm.
have it quiet, or, have soft music available if that's how they study. If they read outside, do you need to create a space outside that's comfortable? That's, is it more quiet outside than inside? So I think all that goes a long way with
Yeah.
helping kids focus and transition into that new schedule.
Yeah. And I will say, kids are not going to say, turn the TV off,
Right?
when their favorite cartoon is on, but it might be good for us, if we have a certain time where the TV's off during the day, we're going to practice
Hmm.
being comfortable with quiet. We're going to practice, having some routines of cleaning up or tidying up, some of those kind of end of day things so that we are waking up to a clean or a more organized space as well.
Well, that's showing too how the family unit is working together as well to make all these systems
Mhm.
work and to let everyone be successful during the new school year.
Yeah. And we know that messy environments can spike cortisol levels in women, children, men, and it actually amplifies anxiety during
Mm,
high pressure school performances. So if you think about that and they're like trying to prepare for an exam or
right,
getting ready for a presentation or a speech, or if they have, a game that they've been preparing
right.
for,
Big tryout or yeah.
right. Having that cluttered environment, that messy environment just adds a little bit more of that stress and anxiety to those already anxious ridden moments.
Interesting. So then going back to my middle school and high school days, whenever I wanted a clean, organized locker, I was actually setting myself up for academic success.
academic
See,
success
it's
for
worth the
sure.
investment in all those plastic shelves.
I will say, and for the adolescents, those are middle school or intermediate school, high school who do have a locker, creating and showing them like how to organize that locker. I remember middle school. I was more of a tidy person, but I had a locker mate who was not as tidy. And so going to my locker was really stressful. So I just started carrying a lot of things in my book bag. And so I avoided the useful resource of my locker because it was too stressful for me to go and see that locker. So creating showing kids how to clean, showing kids how
Yeah.
to organize, showing kids what it looks like to tidy or clean up their bathroom or bedroom or closet is a really great life skill, but it also helps them be able to feel more in control and maybe less stress whenever they are preparing for
Yeah.
academic success.
That makes sense. And then another tip is also, cleaning out their backpacks weekly, whether you do it or have them do it. I know, especially in elementary school, a lot of times they send home little treasure box items that, randomly get in their backpack. And so I definitely recommend cleaning those out. And then we have like a treasure box in our kids' room, or like a bin where it's just their things that are special to them that they get to keep. And so that's where all their like treasure random stuff goes. And then once that gets full, they have to decide which of those treasures are the most important to keep because they only get this much space. But cleaning out backpacks weekly has been really helpful. And then that also helps parents find any forms, or projects that you weren't told about where it's
Artwork, yes.
yes.
Quizzes that were
Quizzes.
hidden away so we wouldn't see them. Yes.
See the grade, or even hopefully it would help you not have those, I have a project due tomorrow and it's, 8 o'clock at
Permission
night.
forms and event
Field
updates.
trips.
Yes.
Yes, all those things. But you bring up another good point about artwork though. So at the end of the week, that's also a good time. Go through your kids' artwork, pick out, which is your favorite, which isn't. Don't keep everything. Um, it's not the it's whatever they have then, it's just going to improve on, that's their starting point. So they will continue to hone their skills. So can you just take a picture of it and let this particular item go? Or is there a way that you are going to store some of the artwork to keep it and preserve it so that it does keep its integrity? Whether it's like you have your picture frames on the wall where you can swap out artwork, whether it's I know a former guest uses a pizza box. You get a plain pizza box, and that's a really nice large size to hold larger pieces of artwork. So, what system will you have in place to keep those items if you choose to keep them? So,
and I include my son in that. Once a month they
Mhm.
like our theme of the month was this, and here's all of the stuff he's created with this theme. And I'll ask him, do you want to keep this, or would you like to recycle this? Do you want to keep this, or shall we discard this? And he will make some of those
yeah.
decisions. And okay, we're going to keep this. Where shall we keep this? Is my next question. And he will say, in the picture frame in the playroom, or mommy, I want you to put that next to your bed, and I'll keep it next to my bed for a couple of days. Or we have a folder, like we have a file cabinet that has all of his like doctor appointments and immunization records and stuff, and then we actually have some extra file cabinet space for his artwork. And then at the end of the school year, we go through again, like, look at all the art you made. What's the most important to you? And then he
Mhm.
chooses a few, and we'll keep those. We'll pare it down again at the end of the year.
Yeah, I always have this vision. I haven't done it yet to make like a yearly book on like a Shutterfly, and then just scan in the artwork, incorporate it, and put on the pages. But it just has not happened yet.
It's a
One day.
great idea.
Great idea. That's for future me.
Mhm.
Not at this chapter of life. But going back to, you're talking about the visual clutter and how to reduce that. I know for me personally, as a creative person, I want to have like all the markers in the big size and, the felt tip and the tiny fine line. And I want to have the colored pencils and I want to have the crayons and the paints and all the things.
And they're beautiful.
They are beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging their beauty.
They are very beautiful. Mhm.
But I know my kids, they always want markers and they always want the fine tip markers. So I just don't even have crayons at the table anymore. I don't even have colored pencils. I just keep the markers out that they use. And that has helped too, because then there's not lots of duplicates, right? We have a backstock area for other items that we might use occasionally. But for our everyday items, we keep it really streamlined and simplified to what they use.
And I have been doing homeschool with my little boy. We have like a dresser drawer, and I keep all of the like supplies and stuff in the dresser drawer, so it's like behind a closed door.
Hmm.
It looks nice in our room, it still looks adult like, but I'll take out what we need for that one academic activity. So if he needs pencils, all we'll have on the table is pencils.
Mm.
If we need a map, we'll just have the maps, and I can put the other things away. So, and he's little, he's 5. So we're working on like very little focus, very little attention span. So the least amount of things that you can have in that space, the more focus he'll have on what you want him to focus on.
Yeah. And that also brings up another point. If you are storing your items in a back stock area or in a drawer or somewhere, making sure that you have that flex space. Like, don't fill it up completely where you're having to dig through and try and find the items you're
Right,
looking for.
right.
You can easily see it, grab it, and get on to the next task.
Yes. And we have to remember, visual clutter, we want to make sure that our house looks nice. We can express ourselves. Our children can express themselves too. But, we want to make sure we're not overstimulating and
Right.
over expressing and
I like that over
overwhelming,
expressing.
over expressing and overwhelming ourselves.
I was over expressing myself for years. I just didn't call it that. I like that. It's much better.
Well, I think my little boy has 4 picture art frames, and he can have 4 things on the picture art frames in the playroom to display his artwork. And we have other space behind those, and we can switch it out easily,
Hmm.
but we're not going to fill the whole wall with that. Or if you decide to have one wall that's just artwork, but we're not
Right.
going to fill all 4 walls in the space with artwork. You have to decide what is enough for you and what feels enough for your home.
Right. And I know, the kind of quintessential and kind of idealistic is like artwork on the fridge. I feel like that gets overwhelming really quickly, at least for me. And a lot of, the fridges now aren't even magnetized on the front, which is also helpful. But I think designating a space that's not in a common workspace like a
Right,
fridge that's
right.
constantly like opening, closing doors, or somewhere where it can get in the way or fall down or have other issues. I think creating a designated space, like you said, like on a wall in another room, I think is a great idea.
Well, and for 2 reasons. One, you don't want to ruin the artwork, and
Yeah.
2, you don't want the artwork, to be in the space of a functioning space, right? It needs to be displayed and seen, not in the
Hmm.
way of a space that's highly utilized.
Right. Right. And then you also brought up, just to touch on again quickly, the consistency in schedules and consistency of the day to day in the system. Is a system in itself, right, and keeps everyone on task, more attentive to what they need to do, and can kind of just move you through the day easier. So definitely having some sort of space to have backpacks, a drop zone, a mud
Yes.
room, designated place for everyone in the
Hmm.
family. So that way kids know where their backpacks go, where their sports equipment goes. So they're not saying, Mom, where are my cleats? Mom, where is this?
Right.
And even, a system for completed homework. So that way you're not scrambling in the morning, where's that project I worked on? Or where's this thing I worked on? So everybody can have a streamlined process and get your kids involved, what works best for them. Is it better to have their completed homework space on a desk in their bedroom and they grab it before they leave? Is it better for them to put it in their backpack the night before? What works best for your kiddos? So,
Hmm. And think about, maybe when you were growing up, were there some, routines and skill sets that you had to put in place that were helpful, or maybe what wasn't helpful?
hmm,
And, if you haven't done these things before, what can we come up with? And I think kids are very resourceful, great at thinking outside of the box too. So, ask your kids too. We need a system for your, sports equipment. Where's a great place for it? And it's not
hmm,
in the bed with me. We're not going to sleep with our soccer cleats and, baseball bats and all of that. But, maybe it's right next to the bed. So whenever I wake up, and I make sure I don't leave it, or it's, on the hook on the way out the door. So that way they're kind of getting the buy-in of they're coming up with ideas too, and
hmm.
we're allowing to try those too.
Yes. Well, those are some tips from us and some research we found with back to school. We hope everybody has the smoothest transition back into scheduling in fall, and everyone had a great summer, we hope.
Yes, yeah, it's been a wonderful summer. It's going to be a great school year
Yes.
ahead, a great start to a new season. And again, a new season, a new start, a new system. And, systems are not always rigid. You can change them up if you have an idea that doesn't work as well in practice. But let's start with some really great foundational things and build from there.
Yeah, definitely be flexible, because the system may work at the beginning of the school year, but then if they start a sport, maybe time is different, or when they're getting up in the morning is different, and you might have to change that system and
And that's okay.
fluctuate. Yeah, just change with the lifestyle. So thank you again for tuning in. If you've really enjoyed this episode or know someone that could really benefit from these tips that we've gone over today, please like and share and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time.